Hey, this is Dr. Emily Sherning with AR. We're here to talk today about tomatoes. I mean, it's been all over the news. You've probably heard that there are these big tomato shortages in India. I heard about this for like close to a month after the crop failure of tomatoes in the southern part of India due to extreme weather events. Now we're starting to see it in the news. It's all over social media, and they all want to say it's due to inflation rather than crop failure. I don't know what's up with that. Like maybe it makes us feel a little calmer, a little bit more like it's just an economic problem we can take care of. I don't know. I think that it's worth noting we're hearing about this because it started to impact operations for international brands, but regular people in India who like cook with tomatoes. I mean, can you imagine cooking modern Indian food with no tomatoes? They're in like everything. The only thing that would be worse would be if you couldn't get rice, which you've probably followed also, that there have been some export freezes of Indian rice. Not of, I'd like to point out, best quality rice. There have been export freezes on non basmati rice, white non basmati rice. And a lot of people are acting like this is some big news, right? I think that it's worth noting that in 2022, we already saw restrictions on low quality rice, on broken rice in 2022. So when we see these stories in the news, I think it's important to give it context. One, they're not coming out of nowhere, these export restrictions, these food shortages, these commodity pressures in India. They've been coming up for a while. They've been coming up for some time with legal restrictions on low quality rice exports beginning last year in 2022. And I think it's worth noting that we're still not talking about limiting the exports of the highest value trade goods. Why would you ban exports of lower quality rice? It's so people can eat, right? And it's sad to me that we're hearing about this tomato story now, that it's affecting the operations of multinational corporations when people in India, people who are trying to cook normal food, have been complaining about this quite severely for more than a month because it is downstream now. You know, we're downstream in the supply chain from the crop failures in southern India that led to this recent tomato thing. I'm bringing up tomatoes and rice in this video because India, as we look at the major powers of the world, India has a really challenging climate outlook, very challenging precipitation outlook. And so as we look to where are we going to see evidence of challenges to the food supply chain, India is going to be a very strong early warning system, both because India has such a large population and because so much of that population is able to access the internet. And many other places that may suffer from climate related food insecurity, we're not going to hear the stories in close to real time. And there will be more time for them to be polished and spun and made to sound more economic and less agricultural. I feel like this is an important trend to put out for people who are trying to keep an eye on things, and that we're likely to see this trend continue in 2024. Now that we've entered the El Nino pattern, we're probably not going to get out of it until after next growing season. So if you're interested in commodities, I would get in there and take a look right now at rice futures, at legume futures. I think that the odds that we're going to have substantial hunger in America next year, you know, many people, we immediately think of our own situation. It's pretty low. But from a crisis perspective, I do want to show you this. So this is an email that I got less than a week ago from one of my local food banks that I like to support. And you can see here, it's a call for dry foods. It's the first time that I have ever seen a call go out from this food bank for rice, dry beans, and pasta, indicating that, you know, like I alluded to with the commodities market, that these staple goods prices are rising to the point where it makes sense to do a community call for donations rather than a call for money to buy these staple goods. Food pantries normally can buy dry staple goods for much cheaper than communities can get the goods to them physically. We look at these sort of price changes in staple goods around the world, it's important not to think of them as a problem related to purely inflation. They're related to the fact that we've had crop failures around the world. If you're a person like me who's interested in agriculture, food security, and climate, this is an important story to keep an eye on and to make yourself look at what's actually happening in the commodities market and what's actually happening in agricultural areas rather than letting it be layered with an economic spin. That helps us stay in a position where we can serve our communities, where our agricultural communities will be supported to feed the world. I hope that you're keeping an eye on the ball. And if your family like mine goes through like 80 pounds of rice a year, some giant amount of rice, this might be a good time to get your rice in for the next year. Let's get ready together. Be smart. Keep your eye on the news and keep the news connected to what's really going on. Let's get ready. Thanks. Folks, thanks for listening to my cranky take on the news. I am really bothered by the coverage that we're seeing of these stories out of India that focus so little on the experiences of the regular people on the ground who are impacted by these commodities price changes. I want to thank, as usual, everyone who's contributed so much to the project. I'm always very moved by the outpouring of time, the outpouring of energy, of money. It really helps keep the project going. Thank you all so much. If you want a chance to interact, we're having our community chat coming up this Sunday, August 20th at 2 p.m. Central. We're going to be focusing on resilience for the Southwest and the Southeast. How do you cope in the home and in the garden with both wet heat and dry heat? Should be a good time. I hope to see you then. Bye.